Hi Marwan, how are you? Can you see us?
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very
Hi.
much.
Hello, everyone.
So it's my pleasure to introduce to all of you Marwan Zgheib of MZ Architects with offices in Lebanon and the UAE, multiple awards, multiple recognitions, and the work will speak for itself. And Marwan, just for you, this hall has about 150 people, but there are 200 colleges and their students also watching this online, which means about 15 to 20,000 more people watching it. So over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I am truly, truly honored to be with you today. I would like seriously to thank Dialogues, all the team of Dialogues, for all the effort and all the great job they are doing. Today we'll be talking about synergy. I'm going to share my screen. With synergy, I want to show you these two photos. One of them is in Pushkar. I took it in Pushkar in India, and the second one I took it in Union in Lebanon. They are two monocellular vernacular houses. I'm sure you can see the similarity between both of them. I mean, to a point, if we exchange this kid, we put it here and the other one here, we wouldn't know which house is in India and which house is in Lebanon. I'm showing this to say that what is synergy? I mean, if we can combine the human need, the basic human need, to whatever nature can give us, and to put it in architecture, this is synergy to me. Today, I will divide my presentation to seven parts. The first one will be about collective memory, the space, the city, nature, religion and meditation, history, and time, and all related, of course, to synergy and architecture. The collective memory. This is a photo of my city, Beirut, before 2020. And as you can see in the photo, we have the port. It was exactly in the heart of Beirut. And this white building here are the silos of Beirut. Why I'm showing this? Because I want to show how something destroyed or scarred or between brackets ugly can become in synergy with the city. In the 90s, they did a kind of competition, to redesign the center of Beirut. It was just after the war. And this is a sketch of Aldo Rossi, late Aldo Rossi, he died now, a great Italian architect. And in his proposal, as you can see, there is no port. He removed the port like they did in most of the Mediterranean seas. Like most of the old cities, the port and the airport were very close to the city. When the city grows, they shift them to, far area, and they try to use this area, for tourism or economy or whatever. So basically, they shifted that, and all the other competitors did the same, and nobody complains. For everybody in Lebanon, it was a normal thing to do. 2020, we had a major explosion in Beirut. I'm sure that some of you heard about it. And this explosion, like more than 300 people died, 400, I think, and then people were injured, thousands. Half of the city destroyed, and mainly the old city. And the second half was saved by these silos. And it's clear in the picture, you can see the explosion is from the other side. So the other part was destroyed while this part remained intact. And the silos somehow saved the second part of the city. 2 years ago, there was a kind of debate or dialogue in Beirut, where they invited many architects and intellectuals, artists, and others, and they were discussing the fact, what should we do with the remaining part of the silos? I was invited, and in my presentation, I compared the silos to the Metamorphosis of Kafka, the book of Kafka, where I compared it to Gregor, this young man who wakes up one day and he became like a giant insect. and everybody rejected him. It's only his mother who wanted to keep him. Anyway, this was my way of seeing things. And amazingly, I wasn't the only one. Almost all the architects back that day and all the other people, intellectuals and others, said, no, we should keep it. And it should remain as a major part of the city because they should always remember the huge mistake they did. And for me, this is an example, not about beauty, but it's more about, destruction and how it can become a part of the city and it can become in synergy with the city. Space. As you said, Sanjay, there are students, so that makes me more happy because I took this photo when I was a student of architecture. I was back then fascinated by the prehistorical art. So there was a trip to visit some of the caves, prehistorical caves in France, like Lascaux, for example, and other, because it's the most famous. So I went there. We were around 20 people in that tour, and they were all archaeologists and prehistorians and anthropologists. We visited a few caves, and when we arrived to this one, it's called Grotte Neo, the cave Neo. I was fascinated by this scenery. I saw this, steel structure. I didn't know who did it, but for me, as an architecture student, I find it something very spectacular. And we went inside the cave. This is how it looks from inside. And I realized the other, archaeologists and others were not as fascinated as I was. So I asked one of them, what do you think of that? He didn't reply, but he said, I would have loved to see the scenery through the people who were here 17,000 years ago, which was something like that. So few years later, I had a similar situation. It was in Oman where they have a big cave. I will talk about it later. And they wanted, but in fact, it's not a cave, it's a sinkhole, meaning you cannot enter walking, you have to go down by the rope. And they wanted to make it as a touristic cave. They have this beautiful plateau. It's desertic, but it has a very strong character. Where some Bedouins, they live here. They have been here for hundreds of years. And in this plateau, you can see the tent of the Bedouins here. And then you have these holes, different holes. They have, in fact, 7 holes. And they call it Selma Plateau, or the 7 holes. Then they have a beautiful story about those holes. I'm going to tell you the story because it's interesting. They believe that there used to be a family living here. And one day the parents took their sheep out, and then they let the little daughter, they had a little daughter, they asked her to stay with the 7 baby sheep that she had, 7 baby sheep that were, newly born. So they went, this little girl fell asleep, she slept, and then the wolf came, he attacked the sheep, and she woke up, she saw the attack, she jumped on him with a knife, and he jumped on her, and unfortunately both of them died. But anyway, God saw this scenery. God saw the scenery, and because of the bravery of this girl, he decided to descend 7 stars, and they created those 7 caves or 7 holes. This is the story, they have it, and they called it now Plateau Selma or the 7 holes. So we received this section. In fact, here you can see 2 holes. But there is a 3rd one, it doesn't show in the section. And when I saw this, I was upset because I knew the cave from the photos in National Geographic. It has been, visited many times from National Geographic. And I am a caver myself. So I thought something is wrong, because for me, I was expecting to see a dome, something like that. So we decided to go and to visit the cave. I went inside the cave with some friends, cavers. And I realized that I was right somehow. Whatever they showed as natural curse was in fact the stones that fell from the roof of the cave. And the cave has really the shape of a dome. This is one of the photos I took, and I put it exactly from the same spot the section was made. And this is what you see inside the cave. It has 200 meters height, 180 clear, and then 14 rocks, and then 400 meters diameter. So it's a huge, it is considered the second biggest space underground, natural space underground, and it has 3 openings. And here you can see the scale. If you look closely, you will see the scale of this man on the rope going all the way up. And when I talked to the people responsible there, they said they wanted to, put kind of elevators or something to bring those people down. And I told him, my friend, your space looks a lot like the Rome Pantheon. It's almost the same feeling, it's natural and it's 4 times bigger. And there is something amazing that I cannot explain, but as a caver, when you go down and you see the scale of the space, you are completely out of space and time because the small rocks you see here are as big as a house. So I told him, imagine you put a scaffolding here, you put, like a giant pillar in the center here and here in the Pantheon. Sometimes we visit those places, cathedrals and others, and they are doing some renovation work, and you get so upset because you see only some scaffolding. So imagine if it was a giant structure going 200 meters up, it will kill the whole idea of this space. So I decided to do something else. I decided instead of going vertical, I decided to go diagonal. And to go diagonal, I proposed a tunnel, to cut a tunnel inside the rocks. And this tunnel is a funicular and staircases, and it can lead all the way down to the most hidden point inside the cave. Of course, I went twice to the cave, and we studied all the details of the ground floor of the cave. And this is my proposal: 2 rectangle, 1 horizontal, and another 1 diagonal. The horizontal and the diagonal. The diagonal will show a part of it on the ground, on the plateau, and the rest will be completely hidden underground. The horizontal volume will have like a big reception area, a small museum, hotel rooms for visitors, canteen, etc. And the diagonal one, of course, is the funicular. This is the connection point between the two rectangles. And this is how it's going to look like from the outside. So we will see the horizontal one going and disappearing almost inside the rocks, and the diagonal will completely disappear inside the plateau. There is a fantastic view, by the way. It goes as far as the sea, and this is why the big reception area I proposed a double floor, belvedere overlooking that scenery. We can see it here also, and we can access the roof through an outdoor staircase on the top of the diagonal volume. And when you reach the bottom of the cave, okay, you reach it at a very discrete point, and this is how I see synergy in this space, is by doing absolutely nothing. Meaning that I didn't touch the space of the cave, it remained as it is. We can do here events such as theater events, stuff like that, but the cave kept intact. I will talk now about the city, the synergy and the city, and 2 projects, 1 horizontal and 1 vertical. I wanted to start with the shelter of the poor of Ledoux. Ledoux, the great architect of the 17th century. He was a visionary, and for me, I like this because this is the poor man, and all he needed was, a shaded area, small shaded area. This is his shelter. I took this photo. I was in Germany, in Düsseldorf, and I saw this building by Gehry, late Gehry, and the whole complex was done by him. I didn't know that it was there, so I took the photo, and I was walking on the street, and then I saw this. And it reminded me of Ledoux, both of them, search for a small shaded area, and for them it was more than enough. But between this and that, there is a huge gap. And this gap, unfortunately, is becoming and getting bigger and bigger in our society all over the world. I mean, the mid class is becoming less and less. We have more poor people. And unfortunately, also, we have more billionaires to a point that even in New York now, there's a street or a neighborhood, I think, or a street. It's called the Billionaire Street. So the first project I will show is a horizontal project. We were called to design the Valley City in Qatar. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So in the Valley City of Qatar, it's a big plot of a few million square meters, and the developer wanted to create a kind of expandable city to start to make it in 3 phases. The first phase was around 1.6 million square meters, and to be developed later on, as much as needed. And of course, they did their feasibility study back then, and they came out with a number of flats, apartments they needed, and eventually square meters. So what I did, I said, okay, because when you talk to developers, you have to talk also in square meters. I said, let's imagine all the square meters you need are a one block divided between 1, 2, and 3 floors. And let's imagine we separate these blocks by creating kind of streets, if you wish. And then we cut it in the middle through an axe that will divide it into 2 parts, completely separate. And then we do some fragmentation of those cubes. And then we create piazzas in the center. On the other hand, we did a quick study on the vernacular and the traditional architecture of Qatar. So we started with the monocellular house, which is one unit house, and then how it developed to become a bit bigger, and then it became more complex, and they introduced sometimes the wind tower, and then it became more and more developed to create a whole neighborhood for a big family, and then to develop the city. And from this proportion, we came out with a new proportion of the new city. And I'm not going to take you there now, but we did a quick study on the fractals, and all the subdivision of the elements were based on the fractal geometry. We also studied the wind, and because the main target was to create a green city, and I wanted the wind to circulate between all the houses and the neighborhood. So we did a quick study of the wind and the proportion of the house related to the wind, and we come out with this master plan. All the roads will be on the periphery. So all the roads will be outside the city. These are the main roads. So you come with your car, and then you can access your neighborhood. So what we called street at the beginning now became neighborhoods. You can access to the last point of the last building, and from that point on, there is no more access towards the inside of the city. Meaning, we kept what we called valley or wadi, as they call it in Qatar. We kept it as a green pedestrian area. And this green pedestrian area will interact with all the neighborhoods. So basically, you can access any building with your car from the outside, but once you are inside, you can no longer access the valley. You have to go walking, and that's how we created a pedestrian area that is it contains a few piazzas. Okay, and those piazzas where we put all the public elements. such as hotels, restaurants, theater, and other functions. This city, this is phase one of the city. This city can keep developing. Sorry, I'm hearing some voices sometimes. I don't know if. Okay. So this city can develop from both sides because. Are we okay?
Yes.
Sorry. Okay. So this city can develop from both sides because the roads, the main roads, are parallel to this part of the city, and it can expand from both sides in the future. And as I mentioned in the beginning, the wind can flow easily in this valley, okay, and it can be distributed naturally to the neighborhoods. This is another view of the city, and here we see clearly how the greenery goes inside the neighborhoods, a night view. And this is one view of a neighborhood where you can see the green part reaching the end or the beginning, if you want, if you are from the inside of each neighborhood. Meaning people living in this area, they don't need cars anymore. They can simply walk and reach the market or the cinemas or whatever they want or gather with their friends. On the other hand, and exactly at the same time, we were invited to design a building, a tower, in Al Raha Beach in Abu Dhabi. Al Raha Beach is a big development in Abu Dhabi, few million square meters also. And this is the central part of this development. And in this central part, we understood back then that there will be international architects invited to do this building, this building, this building, and others. And they wanted us to do the building in here. And immediately I understood that we are going to face the classical problem of the landmark because, whenever they want to go vertical, 90% of the time they want landmarks and they want, something different and special, which always brings us back to I am a monument of Venturi and the problem of putting all the monuments together. But in defense of the tower, and I always said it, we've done many towers, that when you do a high-rise building inside an old city, it's a big problem, and because you're gonna face the problem of scale, even if the material was fine, the scale will always be a problem, and we have so many examples of that all over the world. But if you put the towers together in a new, complete modern city, I don't see any problem in that. In fact, I see it a good solution because we are saving forests and deserts and natural spaces. And we've done a study, a few thousands of square meter of a tower can save you, sometimes it can reach up to 1 million square meter of forest everywhere. Again, examples are everywhere, especially in Chicago, but I have the example here just outside my office. I'm talking to you from my office, and outside my window, this is the city where I live and I work, but this is how it was in the 60s. If you realize here in this photo, you can see this white spot, here. It is in fact this monastery. It's 300 years old monastery, and it was completely surrounded by greenery. And then you have these red houses you saw, and then the sea, the Mediterranean Sea. And only 30 years back, the construction of 5 to 7 stories start, growing inside this mountain. And then it kept growing until it took over the mountain. This is a photo, actual photo. It's even worse now. This is more than 5 years, I think. And this is what we are expecting in the next 30 years. So I think a good solution would have been to choose an area, a bit far from these beautiful historical houses and put a good, like 20 or 30 high-rise building. It could have saved you all the trouble of, destroying this mountain. This is Al Raha Beach. They started with our project. So when we had to design, the site was completely empty. Most of it was water. So I said, I'm not gonna go vertical. I decided to do something, inspired from the seashell, which is, the base of their economy before the oil and gas. And to make the building stable and dynamic at the same time, I based it on the pentagram. And we did lots of study because in our design, the facade is the structure. So there are no columns inside the building. And this is a photo during the construction. You can see from the central core till the end of, till the edge, there is absolutely no structure, more than 38 meters without any columns. This is also an old photo during, just after the finished at the top level. And this is the building. This is the building. So the point here, why did I show these two projects in particular? I saw it because horizontality, it gathers people. Now we are living in a virtual world and there is no connection between people. But at the same time, you cannot escape anymore from the vertical buildings. But in my opinion, they should be gathered and completely separate. Like as we give people the choice, there are those who like to read a book under a tree, and there are those who prefers to read the book on their mobile. Okay, so these two projects completely, we can see the contradiction, and there is absolutely no synergy between both of them, but each of them has its own synergy. Okay, and this is how I see things. We can no longer escape from high rise. I know lots of people criticize and they are against high rise building, but with all the population all over the world moving towards cities, there is no more, we cannot escape anymore from the skyscraper. Sure. Very close to Abu Dhabi, there is, Al Ain. It is between Abu Dhabi and Dubai, and Al Ain has a very, very particular feature. It's a mountain that is cutting the desert in two. Amazingly, if you look at it from aerial view, you will see like a pure line cutting the desert in two. They wanted to build here a stadium. So I went with a team. We camped there for 3 days and we studied the geology, the nature of the soil, the morphology with the surveyors. And I said, I'm not going to build it here. I'm going to build, something with the rocks itself. Because we realized that these elements that you see here are in fact lava, volcanic lava. And it is very easy to remove some of them and to work with them. So I decided to do something inspired from the Greek amphitheater. So we inspected the different sites until we found the right spot. This is a general view of where we're going to build, and this is the exact spot where I decided to build the stadium. We found these five elements, lava elements, as I said. You can see here, for example, how the formation it's done, and it's continuous all the way. So if we remove those three here and we put, like steps, so with whatever we removed, we can refill the cutting, and then we can reach something like that. And we can take the pitch underground just a little bit above the water level to bring as much coolness as we can. Then we can create maybe a kind of blending stadium that doesn't really affect a lot this beautiful and unique mountain. To keep this part completely clear, on the other side there are some construction houses and stuff, so I decided to put the parking also on the back and to access through tunnels to the stadium. And this is a general view of the stadium, the way we saw it. Looking from far, the stadium completely or partially disappears. okay, with the minimum impact on the mountain. Even the entrance are very humble and very welcoming, but at the same time, not grandiose. And once you are inside, you are completely disconnected from the outside, and you can, enjoy the game. And this is a night view of what we call the Rock Stadium. And synergy here for me is completely blending with nature. I mean, there is always two ways of saying things. Some people like to create a stronger dialogue. Uh, Personally, I think nature is so beautiful, and especially, when you have a particular case like this one, and I prefer to be more humble in that cases. Religion and meditation, or sometimes they are the same. I took this photo in Pakistan, in Baluchistan area. It's also a big desert, and this man, he created his own mosque by putting some stones, just carving on the floor, and the mihrab. The mihrab, for the Muslims, is to indicate Mecca, so they know how towards which side they pray. And few years after that, I was in Benin, in Africa, and I saw those evangelists, Christian sect. They did something very similar. They carved in the sand a small church, and now they are praying. And I find it amazing the similarity between both of them. Each one has his own beliefs. This one he put a cross, the other he put a mihrab, but at the end it's basically the same thing. But what I found most interesting, after they finished their prayer, because I was walking, it was an afternoon, and I was walking on the beach. I finished my work. I had some work there, and I was walking. It was near my hotel. They left. And now you can barely see the trace of the church they put. And amazingly, I couldn't step on it, I even changed my way as I kept feeling that there is something sacred here, as, as if there is a synergy between the sacred and the profane. It was simple line, but it kept me away from stepping in. This is a typical monocellular house in Lebanon. We see a lot in the villages, something like that. And also in Lebanon, we see a lot of stones, big stones, like just standing alone, in a mountain like this one or like this one. This is a common thing you will see in the mountain. So I was asked to design a house and a prayer room in this mountain. The whole mountain belongs to one person, and he wanted to build a small house and a prayer room. So I came out with this idea to put the house embedded inside the mountain and to put the prayer room on the top and to connect them together. This is something you will see also a lot in Lebanon, the crack in stones, because we have a big difference in temperature. It can reach up to -7, -8 sometimes, and then it can go up to 30, 30 something. So in the mountains, when you are walking, you can see a lot of this. And the house came inspired of this crack, and this crack will become the staircase that will lead you all the way up to the prayer room. Here we can see the connection between both of them, the model. And here we can see how the house is fully embedded in the mountain. It goes with the same diagonal of the mountain. This is a section. So the house will be overlooking the sea from here, while the mosque or the prayer room will be overlooking the sky. And I didn't want to design a mosque, a pure mosque. I wanted to design a place for meditation, as if it doesn't belong to any religion. Anyone can pray or he can stay for meditation there. So, but it has to have something because the owner was a Muslim. So, you know, in Islam, they pray towards Mecca and they bend when they are praying. So what I did here, I kept the volume as it is, a rectangle, simple square plan and rectangular facade, but I bended the whole facade towards Mecca. So this is how he can know where the site to look at, and he will have the skylight only coming from upside. And this is how it should look with a pure, simple concrete walls all around. I mean, if you look at the first slide I show, and at this, they are somehow similar. What they did, the evangelist and the Pakistani guy was simply drawing lines in the sand. And what we did here is the same lines they drew, we gave them concrete walls. Energy and history. We were also asked to design the Voodoo Museum in Cotonou in Benin. By the way, this is a sketch by Le Corbusier of one of the gods of the Voodoo, the Ogun, he's the god of steel and iron. So I didn't have, you know, like lots of knowledge about the Voodoo. Of course, I read a little about it, but that's why I went to Benin to not only to see the site, but also to be in direct contact with the Voodoo people. Of course, the public idea or the general idea of the Voodoo is magic, black magic, stuff like that. You know, it wasn't given by Hollywood only, it was given since the slavery, because when they took them to America back then, they didn't want them to keep praying for their gods. They wanted to convert them into Christians, and that was a big problem because they started doing it in secret, and this is how they started consider it as black magic. So I went there and I saw the site. The site is in the heart of Cotonou. Cotonou used to be the capital of Benin, and it's a very historical. It's a historical city where you will see a lot of colonial houses. Everything you see here surrounds the site. So we have the two colonial houses, and then we have a cathedral, and then we have the first imprimerie for printing house in Benin. And then we have museums, private museum all around. And the most important is this piazza, which has the sacred trees. This is very important because the whole city was covered with those trees. They are sacred trees for them, and we're going to see this later. And then there is the Voodoo temple. Voodoo means voodoo, it's the same. Okay, and the two streets where they do the festival of voodoo every year. So what is voodoo? Voodoo is a religion. Okay, it has absolutely nothing to do with magic. It's a very complex religion. And amazingly, it has also a certain spirit called Fa, which is based on mathematics. It's surprising, but it is true. And then they have so many gods. They have gods for everything. But the most important thing is voodoo is one of the religion I saw that respects nature more than any others. So they have a great respect for forests. They have great respect for water. So they called it the sacred forest and the sacred waters. And, you know, during Picasso's time, there was this, you know, obsession with what they called primitive art or l'art sauvage at that time. Uh, Picasso was one of them, Paul Klee was another, and André Malraux and many other, intellectual were taken by the African art. I had the chance to visit this exhibition in Paris a few years ago. And I wanted to show you this. This is Nina Simone, the famous jazz singer, the late famous jazz singer. And in one video, you can probably still find it on YouTube. She was doing a song, and then suddenly she got completely out of herself and she started dancing, purely African voodoo festival. These are during the voodoo festival. And Nina Simone was Christian. She was not only Christian, she was a deep believer. Okay, but I think the spirit was still there, so it's much more than a physical thing. I think it is there. Uh, for of you who likes Nina Simone, I think you should see this video. I forgot the song. I think it was Cinnamon, but I remember it was something spectacular, and I did the comparison to show that even 100 years after generations has passed, the voodoo spirit is still there. And then we have the vernacular houses, which are typical in all Africa, Central Africa, which are the round mud houses. So you can see it everywhere, in the villages, of course. And sometimes they used to create kind of a wall to protect those houses. Here it's done with stones. Most of the time it's done with those. And this is a typical layout of a small village or a big family housing. So we got inspired of this, and I created the museum as a collection of circular volumes embedded in one big circular mass, embedded in another one, which is the sacred water, because the water that used to be here in that part of completely disappeared with the new development. So, and then I propose to put trees all around wherever we can in between the existing, remaining traditional buildings. So the museum will be formed from 2 floors and the roof. All of them are used. The mid floor, which is the access floor, because it's on an inclined side, is completely outdoor elements where you can circulate between those cylinders under a covered area. And every time we have like a big space, it overlooks one of the elements of the city. And to go back to synergy, this is, for me, we create synergy through scenery, meaning that people can walk in this museum. They don't need air conditioning, they don't need anything. They can sit and they can, have direct view to the different elements that I showed at the beginning, including the sacred forest, the existing one, the cathedral, the old houses, the museum, and the souk is from that side. The market, the main market, is from that side. This is for the upper floor. We can go all the way up to the roof where it will be used as a belvedere just to see all the city of Cotonou. And when you go down, you will have more internal spaces because most of the elements that are put here need to be air conditioned and temperature controlled. While up, most of the element doesn't need that. So this is how it's gonna look like. It will be in the center. We have the cathedral, the piazza, the sacred trees of the remaining sacred trees of here, the museum. Here they have a theater. They call it. I forgot the name, but they want to keep it. And then there are the two colonial houses all around. So, and we created a connection with the theater, like kind of ballad all the way from the museum towards the theater. And I advise to remove all the remaining construction and to put again what they call the sacred trees or sacred forest. Here we can see clearly, this is the piazza. The cathedral is here, and then the remaining buildings. And this is the major market where they do all the festivals during the Voodoo festival. This is the relation between the museum and the existing building and the theater. And I intended not to do something very, massive, just to remain at an acceptable scale. I wanted to be at always below the height of the trees. And these are the spaces between the volumes where you can have a kind of sitting area and can overlook the different elements of the city. You can see clearly the sacred water. Okay, we proposed it to be in rammed earth. This section here shows the connection between the three levels and the silos of light that brings light to the lower floor. This is a view from the cafeteria. It's one on the mid level. Another view, as I mentioned here, all these elements doesn't need to be air conditioned. They are exposing them already outdoor now, of course, under covered area. The weather there is kind of tropical weather, so basically all you need is to be protected a little bit from the rain and the sun, and then you don't need air condition. So almost half of the museum is not air conditioned. Then we take the ramp all the way down by enjoying the scenery to the water and to the forest. And here we have the indoor spaces where they have the elements that can or need to be temperature controlled and light control. And again, the space at the lower level where we brought the natural light through the silos that goes all the way up to the roof. These are the facade and the general view of the museum. Energy and time. I took this photo in 2002 in Babylon. I wanted to visit Iraq long back before the war that happened there. And I went to Babylon. And, I was visiting all the historical monuments there. And there was only two security guys. And this guy. And, he was coming out of nowhere and he started cleaning around the famous Lion of Babylon. So I asked the security, what is he doing? I mean, the whole area is full of dust everywhere. And the security guy, he said, don't pay attention. This man is, a Bedouin from the village here nearby. And he's convinced that he's a descendant of Nebuchadnezzar, the famous Babylonian king. He believes that he is a descendant, he has his blood in him, and he thinks that this belongs to him. So he comes every day without being paid, and he cleans this area in particular, and he leaves. And I find it amazing. I mean, this is, to me, pure synergy. If more than 3,000 years ago, someone still have this kind of, sense of belonging, to me, this is synergy. And thank you.
Wow, that was amazing, Marwan. Thank you so much. We have another big round, please. Thank you very much, Marwan. You made us all think. You made us all think a lot. Thank you.
you. Appreciate it.
So looking forward to meeting soon.
Hopefully, we were expecting you also to be here with us in Lebanon,
I know.
but due to this situation, I'm sure you are aware of what's happening now.
Yes.
I believe it has been cancelled. We haven't talked to them yet, but I believe it has been cancelled and shifted till September. But
Yes.
we will keep you and all of you, updated with this.
Okay. How's it going there right now? Is there
Not good, not
not
good.
good?
I mean, nobody knows where it's gonna go. Okay, we still hope for peace, and but it's the picture is not clear yet. You hear lots of different opinions.
Wish you all the best from all of us. And thank you once again.
Thank you.
Ciao.
I appreciate it.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you.